won't be long now. Your death is near. Only I can sustain you. Let go. Serve me.
You are nothing.
Nothing.
I am a god!
Sup boys, Accolonn here, and welcome back to each and every one of you. And as I always do in the mornings, I browse Reddit. One of my favorite subreddits has to be Warcraft lore, mainly because a lot of people ask questions there that kind of tickle my creative juices, if you will, and I come up with a lot of foundational content for videos that I want to put out there. Today's post is no different. The post is made by user 11S3R, great name, by the way, very easy to say, and it's an interesting one. I'm of course not going to answer the question, or the only question, motive for joining N'Zoth. That's a pretty subjective question to be asking, and I don't think that would be worth an entire video. No, I'm going to talk about N'Zoth, his role in the great universe, what exactly his purpose was, what the Titans did when they imprisoned all of the old gods, and how all of this may be fitting into Shadowlands and what we could see with Shadowlands. So all of that is going to be covered through this post, but I will go through the post as well because it raises a couple of very interesting questions that I do think I have the answers to. And then of course, at the end of the video, if you need any incentive to stick around, we're going to be discussing this little nugget that launched about 10 hours ago over on Wowhead, and it is a brand new game product that has just been revealed. It is Warcraft Classic, or WoW Classic PTR, which I think is, I mean, it's ripe for speculation, right? There's definitely stuff that we can be saying about this, so stick around if that is the only reason you would really want to watch this video. All right, start. It's hammer time. No, it's really not hammer time. It is, of course, future Accolonn quickly saying, there's a poll. I really want to know what you guys think about this. So the poll is, I think, in this corner. Click it right now. There. It's going to be there. Click it right now. The poll is simple. Would you follow N'Zoth? Yes or no? Let me know, because oh my god, I'm looking forward at finding out what you guys think. Anyways, let's get into the video. All right, so the post from user 11S3R starts as follows. Every time someone starts serving N'Zoth, it is said that they do so because they are corrupted or indoctrinated, gone insane. Not quite. Not quite. It is the act of serving that causes them to go insane. It's not them being insane that causes them to serve. These two are literally flipped. It starts out with whispers that is very quiet, very silent, and the longer you listen to the whispers, the longer you give in to the whispers, the louder they become. And it is said that eventually it's impossible for you to discern between the whisper and the actuality, your actual thoughts, and that's the causing, that's what makes you insane. So it could actually be a flip side thing. Now, going on to H.P. Lovecraft, which of course in a video, this video on your screen right now, this was yesterday, the link is in the description down below, but in that video, I explained the link between the H.P. Lovecraft mythos and his universe and the old gods, and there's a very strong link, so definitely watch that video right after you've watched this one. But if you go on the H.P. Lovecraft universe, then what Cthulhu would do is he would first drive people insane by visiting them in their nightmares, and then once they were insane, he would hold on to them for a period of about 8 or 9 months before letting them go. And this could be because the human mind couldn't last much longer than that, but he always let them go, which I always thought was kind of interesting. Cthulhu didn't let them be insane into perpetuity. He would let them be, and after 9 months they would remember nothing of what they have done. They'd just be fine. So it is quite interesting, and in that case, if we assume that the old gods work exactly the way that the outer gods in the H.P. Lovecraft universe works, then yes, they would be insane in order to serve N'Zoth. Now, the user goes on to say, but I fail to see that. Why would someone have to be mad to do that? If you can If you consider that most followers don't know his endgame to corrupt the Titan Azeroth, I have a problem with that. They only see that a single entity would be the sovereign ruler of the planet, which could guarantee unity, peace, and equality, things that the factions, depending on who was leading them, never really cared about. Let's talk about the goal of N'Zoth, because I think that's one that is most interesting to me. Let's start off with the Titans in the Chronicles. The Titans get to Azeroth, and there is a bunch of old gods on Azeroth, and they're busy corrupting Azeroth. They rip Yoursolosquad out of the planet, and they realize, holy shit, that's gonna kill Azeroth. So they decide instead to imprison the other old gods rather than defeat them normally, because it wasn't the act of killing the old god that almost killed Azeroth. That would be very wrong. It was how they killed Yoursolosquad that almost killed Azeroth. There is no reason to believe that they didn't know they could kill them by just sending their forces and defeating them without ripping them out of the planet. The Titans should have known this. They could communicate with Azeroth, whether through dreams or emotions or however you want to state that, they could communicate with Azeroth. So they could have found out how do we defeat them, but instead they decide to imprison them. That's the first thing I want you to keep in the back of your mind. Why did they decide to imprison them? Because this did not limit, or this did not remove their corruption. It merely restricted it. So it made so that they needed a lot more time in order to corrupt the planet, but they could still do it from within their prisons. Their powers were diminished, not removed, so to speak. Then next up, we talk... Now keep that in the back of your mind. We're getting back to that. We need to talk about Sylvanas, because that's an interesting one. Sylvanas sets out to rank up or ramp up a body count like the world has never seen. Why? Because death is broken. We heard this at BlizzCon. All the souls are now going straight into the Maw. Sylvanas has a deal with the jailer. We see this, and it stands to reason that the more souls that go into the Maw, the stronger the Maw becomes. And since Sylvanas is channeling the power of the Maw, this would mean that she becomes more powerful. So she is trying to rake up a body count of some renown. But N'Zoth decides to give her the blade of the Black Empire. Sylvanas then takes this blade, the blade that would be able to kill N'Zoth, and she gives it to Queen Azshara. Something that is sure to end the war. So, on the one hand, Sylvanas wants a war to continue into perpetuity. She says this herself, that Cao Fang's actions actually went counter to what she had hoped for. She wanted the Horde and the Alliance to clash at the gates of Orgrimmar, because this would have racked up a larger body count. But since Cao Fang challenged her at the gates of Orgrimmar, she had no choice. She had to walk out and she had to face him, and this kind of brought an end to all of her plans. This ruined the plan of an endless war. But the taking of the dagger to Queen Azshara would surely have ended a different war, a war that would have sought to empower her armies even further. There is every reason to believe that N'Zoth's armies would slaughter the mortals, and yet Sylvanas took the one weapon that could kill an old god to Queen Azshara for that exact purpose. Now, that got me thinking, why would she do that? Because that runs counter to her plan of raking up a really high body count. And she even says that now the mortal armies will march on N'Zoth, and he will leave countless dead in their streets. But it doesn't matter, because in the end, he too will serve death, will serve me. So I thought, alright, but you took the dagger. Now, it may be that Sylvanas needed to give the dagger to Queen Azshara, because without the dagger, Queen Azshara would not have released N'Zoth. Why did N'Zoth give Sylvanas the dagger? Because without the dagger, he could never have known whether Azshara was truly loyal to him. He may have had suspicions that Azshara was plotting against him, but it was that dagger, when he sensed the blade of the Black Empire in the possession of Queen Azshara, that he knew. And this is why, during that cinematic where he wraps his tentacles around Azshara and rips her away, this is why we see that face that Azshara makes in that cinematic. She is mortified. She did not think that he would get his hands on her. She knows that she is fucked now, right? But eventually we make our way and we kill N'Zoth. But it's at this point that Sylvanas goes in a completely different direction. She makes her way to Northrend, fights the Lich King, takes his helm, breaks it open, and splits open the veil between the Shadowlands and our reality. What's the link? You spent all this time starting this war, right? And now you could argue that she wanted power enough to defeat the Lich King. But one could also argue that way before she even gave the blade to Queen Azshara, she would have already had that power, because think about the body count. The body count in order to reach Queen Azshara and fight her, and then the body count in order to reach N'Zoth would not have been that high. It wasn't that big of a war until that point, right? So there wouldn't have been much more bodies, or many more bodies going into the maw from that point onwards. So Sylvanas should have had the power round about the time that she got the Blade of the Black Empire. She would have had enough power, at least, to open the way between the Shadowlands and our reality. So this kinda got me thinking, what if N'Zoth was always part of it? What if, as long as N'Zoth is alive, what if this is what I told you, keep the Titans in the back of your mind, their actions. What if after ripping Yosoraj out of the planet, because remember, how did Sylvanas break the veil between the Shadowlands and reality? By using a massive amount of energy. Xal'atath actually tells us that the veil draws thin, that the veil is growing thinner every single day. Why? Well, when an old god dies, it stands to reason that they release a massive amount of energy, right? Cosmic energy, anima that flows without them, or flows out of them into the Nether, into the Shadowlands through the veil. And when you release that amount of anima, that amount of energy through the veil, it thins the veil. It weakens the veil. So why did Sylvanas... Why did the old gods, why were the old gods spared, is my question. What if the Titans, while ripping out Yosoraj, as they ripped him out, they realized that, holy shit, this is going to kill Azeroth, but there's a much bigger problem. This is thinning the veil. Remember, there's a whisper that we have never been able to place. This whisper is from Il'gynoth, and it states that there are 5 keys to open the way, 5 torches to light the path. And we have been back and forth on this, trying to say that it might be the world pillars, might be the world trees, something that lights the way but also opens the way, right? Sylvanas did this with the world tree. When a world tree dies, it also stands to reason that it would release a massive amount of energy, and that energy has to flow somewhere. And if I'm correct in my speculation that the world trees link the Shadowlands, reality, and the dream to one another, so it is a pillar within the link, then those world trees being destroyed would actually weaken the veil. It would weaken the barrier between the Shadowlands and reality. But so would the old gods. And what if that is what the Titans realized? The Titans realized that by ripping out the old gods, by killing them, they are actually thinning the veil. And what if the 5 torches that is mentioned by Il'gynoth wasn't meant to open the way for their masters, but it would open the way for the ultimate destruction of our universe? Remember, N'Zoth states this. He says that Sylvanas is going to unleash darkness and that he alone can save us from that fate. And I believe that he was actually literal. As long as he is alive, Sylvanas does not have the power, nor does the veil have the weakness for Sylvanas to break it open. But once he dies, Sylvanas will have everything she needs to open the way. So he alone can save us from that fate means don't kill me. Don't kill me because I am the final barrier. Now, why would I say this? How do I get there? Well, that's pretty simple. I speculated in yesterday's video that all of the cosmological forces of our universe is in a constant cosmic battle with one another for dominance. But there is one that is far more powerful and far more horrendous than any of the others, and that is Azeroth's child, Death. right? I argue that the cosmological forces is the children of Azeroth, and that death is the black sheep of the family, right? Death is the horrible one, because death grows stronger no matter what happens. So all of the other cosmological forces would have been hell-bent on keeping death at bay. The Titans built engines on Azeroth, and we've always thought that these engines were simply to stop old god corruption. I argued that these engines had nothing to do with that. The engines harvested the power of Azeroth in order to strengthen the Veil. So the only way for the Veil to fall is with these engines shutting down, with these engines being broken, or with enough energy that would overpower even the engines, right? So this is what Sylvanas ultimately did. She unleashed more and more energy. The Old Gods was a direct reaction from the Void in order to keep the Maw at bay. So while Order, the child order of Azeroth, sent his Titans, or her Titans, into the universe in order to order things but also keep the Veil strong, the Old Gods, or the Void, had its own answer. It would send its Old Gods, and through corrupting Azeroth, they would make her even stronger. And since she is the one who powers the Veil, a stronger Azeroth would mean a stronger Veil. So this is what the Old Gods were meant to do. They were meant to corrupt the Titans, and then those Titans would strengthen the Veil even further, and hopefully become weapons once everyone marched on the Maw. Once everyone marched on death, they would have these supercharged Titans, if you will. Sargeras, this could be like crazy speculation, and I could be completely wrong, or I could be very right, and this is fucking genius. I don't know. We'll see if that is true, but Sargeras' sword is interesting. What if that was meant? I speculated this way back in Legion. I said, what if Sargeras' sword is actually to empower Azeroth? What if what Magni and them saw, because we know Magni has been wrong a lot of the things that Magni has seen, and a lot of the things that Azeroth has told Magni, wasn't Azeroth telling Magni jack shit, because it kept leading to worse and worse fates, right? It wasn't a great thing that happened. So what if the whispers of the Maw, or the whispers that Magni was hearing, was in fact either from the Jailer or maybe from the Old Gods? This sword was actually seeping its power into Azeroth. And Sargeras' idea here was, yes, this would corrupt Azeroth, but it would make her strong enough to wake up. And once she wakes up, the Veil is safe, because she is the creator of the Veil. And if you're going, Accolonn, I don't have a fucking clue what you're talking about now, you have to watch yesterday's video. I explain how Sylvanas is the creator of all things. She created the whole universe, everything. She is the god of World of Warcraft. So there's that to consider. The sword being not to kill Azeroth, but actually to strengthen her. So every single cosmological force has had its own answer to keeping the Maw at bay. And the defeat of the final Old God was the fall of the fourth pillar, the fourth torch, the fourth key. The final key was the Helm of the Lich King. This was, of course, another failsafe by Chaos. Chaos, knowing that the Maw can never be unleashed, decide to sneak into the Shadowlands, steal the armor that would lock the Maw up forever, and the Lich King would serve as the key, the final key to the Shadowlands. His helm would literally be the key to unlocking the Shadowlands. This is why, as long as the other four Old Gods were alive, and the Lich King was alive, there would be no way to open the Shadowlands. The Shadowlands would remain closed forever. Of course, the Old Gods banked not on a Lich King, because remember, by the time the Old Gods got there, there was no Lich King. Their idea was they would be the four keys, so they would be the four keys, the four Old Gods, and then they would corrupt Azeroth, and Azeroth would become the fifth and final key. So only defeating Azeroth would be enough to destroy the Veil. So every single cosmological force is working against one another, but also kind of working towards the same goal. They all want to stop the Maw from getting free, and we have more than enough evidence to suggest that none of the cosmological forces truly want the Maw to be free. I mean, the Maw literally has defenses upon defenses set in place to stop the Maw from getting free, right? So I do believe that this is definitive, at least as far as I'm concerned. So N'Zoth falling was the signal that Sylvanas have been waiting for. She needed N'Zoth to die, because in the end he will serve death, but while N'Zoth is alive, Sylvanas cannot break open the veil. So simply breaking the Helm of the Lich King would do nothing to the veil. It would surely be a massive shock. But she needed the veil to be thin enough. She needed N'Zoth to die, which weakened the veil enough so that she could ultimately break it open with the helm. At least that's my theory around it. Alright, so the post goes on to say, or you can consider the dragons following him. True, the black ones were all mad, but remember, they were made mad. They weren't mad eventually. It said in the books, right, that Deathwing, for a while actually serving N'Zoth, had full mental faculty. He knew what he was doing. He chose to follow N'Zoth. It was as things went on, and this is again why I say your first line here is wrong, because you don't have to be insane. Deathwing had enough mental fortitude to walk through the portal to Outland to hide some eggs there, right? Because he knew that he was going insane and he was gonna lose his mind, but he still opted to follow N'Zoth. All right, great. Mostly that it's a sign of madness, but rather the opposite. And let's not forget the promise of restoring both their fertility, which alone makes it morally debatable at worst, and their pride, especially if we consider how many times they were humiliated by mortals in the past. As for the Mantis and Karaji, the mind control is still somewhat plausible. Not necessarily. If you take into account the way the Mantid and the Karaji function and order themselves, it makes sense that their gods would also be quite quote-unquote evil, for lack of a better word, right? So all in all, it's sad to see how this entire conflict is still treated the usual good versus bad way. I agree. As I said, in my estimations, this is not a good versus evil. This is more every single cosmological force is trying its damnedest to stop death from being unleashed, because death was unleashed before and it does not end well. It never ends well, because once death is free, death will consume all things. Death will consume the entirety of the universe. Now, there is a final bit of speculation that I will put out there, if you will, around Sylvanas, and I know there's a couple of people that is hoping for some redemption story for Sylvanas, and as I've stated in the past, I don't think she needs a redemption story, because we don't yet know her motives. What we do know is that the undead have the uncanny ability to see things that the rest of us do not see. The Forsaken definitely see more than what we see. And if Sylvanas at any point had the ability to look to the Shadowlands, peer into the Shadowlands, if it will, she would have seen the chaos. She would have seen the issues that is in existence. She would have seen the problems that arose within the Shadowlands. She would have known that it was broken and that death was coming. And so Sylvanas have always been kind of obsessed with living forever. One could argue that while she is using death at the moment as an ally, it could be very well a strategic ally. It is an ally because no one else would ally with her at the moment, but she is using death in order to become death, or in order to nullify death, because she knows that death will grow powerful enough eventually to break free, and that once death breaks free, there will be no living forever for anyone. Death will consume all things, and nothing will be left of the universe. So Sylvanas is acting before anyone else. She states that this world is a prison. What if that is literally, this world is a prison, meaning we are here and we are food for death. Once death is unleashed, it will consume our reality. It will consume all things. So death must be stopped. Death must be changed. A new death must take over. One that doesn't wish to consume the universe. I'm not saying that it's true. I don't know. It could be though, right? And it would be interesting. if that is the case. Anyways, let's jump into WoW Classic PTR, the new game product. It's definitely interesting to see Blizzard. They literally said nothing about this. It's just a brand new product that is listed on the patch note for WoW Classic PTR. Now, we know that WoW Classic has been a tremendous success, right? Absolute success. And this stands to reason that Blizzard is almost definitely going to do a Burning Crusade and will almost definitely do a Wrath. However, we have argued for a very long time that Classic's success is based on the foundation of Classic. It's based on how Classic plays, right? It's based on not necessarily the class design, but the class philosophy behind Classic is what makes Classic work. What if Blizzard is doing what people have been asking for since the launch of Classic? What if Blizzard is getting ready to launch Classic Plus? Because this is a brand new product, WoW Classic PTR. If Blizzard wanted to test adding new dungeons, adding new features, adding new raids to Classic, raids and features that have never been released before, this would be tremendous, right? Because this is where it would be used, the WoW Classic PTR. We're tasting brand new things. We want to taste those things. The way we're going to taste it is by throwing it onto this PTR, seeing what works, what doesn't work, and then releasing it. Because Classic is a gold maker. And if Blizzard started releasing brand new content for Classic, you can bet your bottom dollar that there is going to be a lot of hype around that. And a lot of people might return to start playing Classic as a mainstay. Right, so they're not going to come back to play some retail and then some Classic, but stick with Classic into perpetuity. It could just be something boring, like Blizzard is going to use it to taste the last raid, Naxxramas, and it might just be, they're going to use Burning Crusade there, and they're going to taste the Wrath there. But I'm hopeful that it is something bigger than that. I am so hopeful for that. Anyways, guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts on not only the Classic PTR, but also on the motive for joining Azeroth. What do you think of my speculation? Are you on board? Do you think I'm absolutely crazy? Let me know in the comment section down below. Remember, these videos are for you. I do these so that I can hear your points of view, so that I can find out what you think of everything that we discuss in these videos. And as always, I want to say a big thank you to everyone that is supporting this channel over on Patreon, Twitch, and of course the YouTube channel members. Without you guys, I would not be here. What I'm doing here would physically not be possible. You keep me going. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you want to support the channel, the links is in the description down below. Remember, I do stream I'm probably going to try and stream every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday over on Twitch, and every Sunday right here on YouTube. Guys, as always, my name is Accolonn, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out, fam.